line this morning. Hey, Devin.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Well, we got a lot to ask you. Wiggy's got a question in waiting. He finally took him a while to remember what it was, but he got there. And I just want to start because we were talking about Bill O'Brien earlier and how he seems to somehow escape any of the blame on this putrid offense. And you were on this team last year, and with the Wiggy brings this up a lot. With the basically the exception of Jacoby Myers, it's pretty much the same roster. In your mind, how do you get the giant decline with the same roster that you were on last year?
I think it's a little bit too of the transition of trying to install something that you've done, not exactly maybe having the exact personnel that I think Billy O'Brien, I know I can speak to when he was here, when I first got here we kind of had an offense built on two tight ends. One, not much of a blocker, but a really good athlete. The other one, a vertical threat, a great blocker, like a true tight end. And I think that was the basis of that whole offense when you think about it. And this offense doesn't really, Farrell Brown's the only guy that, has been known throughout his career to be a blocker. You could argue Hunter Henry and Gesicki have both kind of throughout their careers been known as, very similar guys of just being, they're more of a receiving tight end than just blockers. So I think it's that transition of trying to take what was here last year and blend it in what you've done well. And I think Kendrick Bourne was a big part of that because he's the true route runner of the receiver group, which when I got there, it was, Deion Branch and then Brandon Lloyd of those route runner type receivers, not super explosive, not vertical guys like that, but could get open. And then Pop Douglas being that kind of threat as a slot guy. But I think they don't have the pieces that, from what I know, match Billy O's offense. So I think that's been the struggle of trying to put all that together. And then the biggest struggle has been the inconsistency of what they've had up front. And I think you've seen more points over the last few weeks when, Michael Onwenu's been at right tackle, then Trent doesn't play because he got hurt last week. It's just so much up and down for that team that I think it's hard for anybody to get it, kind of going on the right track. Last year, we didn't really we had a lot of guys that were in there playing. Obviously, it didn't go well either, but I think that's been a little bit of a reason why.
Dev, one of the things that we constantly talk about here is, has Bill lost the locker room, whether it's with disciplinary things that you see that could potentially going on with Jack Jones and J.C. Jackson and tweets. And a lot of people say that it all started when the guys saw that Bill hired Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and they lost that respect for him. You were in that locker room. You were a part of that. Did that have anything to do with when we start to look at this team, or do you feel like this team has lost respect for Bill from last year to this year based on what you were a part of?
No, I mean, I do think last year how that all played out, I think that crushed that team. I think for last year, that feeling of dang, why are we doing this? And then I think the thought of all right, well, we'll see how it goes, and then it doesn't go well. I think that was tough for that team, but I don't really think that's something that goes over to the next year because you do hire an offensive coordinator, you do some different things. So I think even for me being around those guys were excited coming into this year. So I wouldn't, put that part of it, but I will say over the last few years, some of the things like seeing Jack and JC not be out there to start the game and Wade being out there makes you feel all right, that was some kind of discipline, something they did. But I wouldn't say that's out of the norm. And I think the hard thing is when you're losing, everything gets magnified. In Pittsburgh, we have Pickens gets angry. You watched the game last Thursday. Deontay Johnson scores a touchdown. Pickens runs right off the field. They show everybody on the sideline celebrating because Deontay Johnson hadn't scored a touchdown since Roethlisberger was there. Pickens is just sitting there, not celebrating, looking angry. Then he takes all Pittsburgh stuff off his social media, And, like, that's not getting a ton of attention. Everybody's like, all right, because Pittsburgh's winning. Like, they're like, Mike Tomlin's a veteran coach. He's been there for a while. He'll handle it. And nobody's worried about it, even though that team overall has been outscored. They've done a lot of things wrong, but they've found ways to win. So it's like, oh, Mike Tomlin will handle it. But in New England right now, you're 2-7 or whatever it is. So it's not going well. Then you get two guys that should be playing or not playing. Oh, they've lost respect. So I don't know the small things that might be going on in there, but I know no matter what, when you're not winning games, everything seems like it's 10 times worse. And I mean, honestly, in our league and the eyeballs that you have on, it makes sense. So they definitely can't have those type of things and be losing, because that's what bad teams do overall. Like, we've watched that for years. Franchises continue to lose, and these are the stories, right? We're losing. This guy doesn't come to meetings. This guy doesn't do this. This guy talked back to here, and you just start seeing all of these breakdowns. I think they have to, no matter what, avoid being that.
Well, you played with Jack Jones. You were there. He apparently was talking back in a meeting last year. Then he goes and likes a tweet after Sunday, which basically suggests that he would be better off in jail than on this football team. I mean, you were there for a long time. Can you imagine anything? Did you see any period of time in which players did that on a Bill Belichick coach team?
No, but I think we pour too much into that. Like, this thought of, like, Bill is like this, like, non-human being that everybody's, like, scared to death of. Like, we've had guys in there that have done things that you're like, all right, that's different. And sometimes they end up still being there. Sometimes they're gone. Mm-hmm. Like, you have guys that buy into a culture and to winning. When you're not winning, you have to find ways to get guys to continue to buy in. You need strong veteran leadership. You need guys to show guys the way to do it. And I think overall, when guys don't do that and they can't do that, we've seen guys not be, on the Patriots or in the league. Like, that's just the nature of how things go. It'd be different if we were over here talking about, certain guys that have been there for a while. A guy like Kyle Duggar, who's in his fourth year, who's now acting in a certain way. And it's like, well, this is kind of unheard of. Like, he's totally done with this or something like that. But like a young guy like Jack's been trying to figure out his way of how to get things going. He's had some ups, he's had some downs. Overall, super talented. I think everybody in New England has talked about that, trying to kind of get him on the right path and get things going the right way. He's had a lot to deal with this offseason. He's played some good plays for them. I think overall it has been up and down, because that's what you would expect. You're in your second year and you haven't had the chance to, go through the full cycle the right way. You've had to miss some time, injury. So I wouldn't take, I would say him and JC's situation last week and project that on the whole team.
But Devin, JC and Jack aside, it does seem like frustration's boiling over for this team. You've got Brendan Schooler on the sideline yelling at refs. The last two games, there's been a fight that's happened between them and the opposing team. Is there a voice in the locker room that can reel this in, or are all these guys in your mind thinking towards the offseason?
Yeah, nobody's reeling into it. Like, it just is what it is. Like, we can make up anything and say, if they had this guy in the locker room or the past, if they had that guy, like all those other teams, they weren't 2-7. Like, they weren't over here, heading to Germany and everybody's talking about them having a top 5 pick. Like, once you start getting in that range, like, you can go in there. Like, I know Slater really well. I know he's in there preaching, he's talking, he's doing this and that. If I'm being honest with you, like, that doesn't matter. Like, when you're not winning ball games, everybody's in there. They're going to start to think about, all right, what do I need to do next to make sure I'm in the league? What do I need to do next to make sure I get the contract I want in free agency? How do I start to be like, that is just the nature of it.
How do I avoid getting hurt? And so therefore I'm not really going to tackle guys. I mean,
business decisions, Greg.
I will say overall, like, if they don't win, those frustrations are going to continue to build, because Wiggy knows, like, whether you're winning or losing, it doesn't affect how the routine of the week still goes. You're still in there Monday watching film, off Tuesday, practice Wednesday, practice Thursday. Like, all of those things still happen. So as a player, you're frustrated because you're still doing the same thing and nothing's changing. And you're like, man, this sucks. And I think for them, until they win or can win a game or two in a row, like those frustrations are going to get worse and worse.
Devin, after I believe it was the Saints shutout loss at home, Bill Belichick told the media that it was time to start over and reset. Since then, they've won one game, but the mistakes have continued. Why do you think this team, if you had to distill it to one thing, is 2-7? Why have they been unable to receive the coaching from Bill Belichick as they have in years past?
Man, if there was one thing that made any team 2-7 or 1-8, I would not be talking to you guys. I'll be somewhere relaxing because I'd be a billionaire. But I think for this team, I just don't think there's enough cohesiveness. I don't think there's enough guys that have been there for a while that when the coaching comes in or during a tough situation that it's like, all right, we're all in this. We believe in it from start to finish. Like, I don't think they have that. I think that is a hard thing to have during adversity when things don't go your way, to like have everybody fully bought into like, this is how we got to do it. So I think that's been a struggle for them because each time they get in a game, I think they're just all waiting like, all right, is this going to go well or is this not? And as soon as some bad things start to happen, I think we can sometimes even just close the book on the game like, all right, well, that's it. And I think that's a hard thing to overcome as a team as you're trying, like you're young, you're trying to put it together, you're trying to figure out how to win. You need some things to go right. I think we saw that with the Vegas team Sunday. Like, I watched the film on the game. Like, they made some small changes to what they did offensively. Defense was pretty much the same, but they came out, they got off to a good start. They played from ahead, scored some touchdowns. The next thing you know, we're looking like, oh, man, this team looks way better. Like, oh, man, they just needed Josh McDaniels. Like, the hard thing is, like, all right, what's going to happen next week if you don't start like that and then you get in a hole? That's when you can see. And I think this team struggles a little bit with that in every game so far for the most part. They started kind of in a hole, and I think maybe one time this year they've kicked a field goal to go up 3-0 to start the game, but every other game they start, they're down, and they're trying to pull themselves out, and I think that's really hard to do as a team.
Dev, I think the one thing that this team is lacking, and, you know,
is a quarterback.
No. It has nothing to do with that. I'm talking about the whole thing. And granted, I guess I'm going to give you a little praise here, is they don't have guys like yourself. I know I agree with you, Matthew Slater, as a special teams guy. Sometimes it's hard. But they don't have veterans that are on the offense or the defense that have been there before, that know what success tastes like, that knows what they need to do when things are not going that way. And I always go back to my playing days when I remember in 2000 we weren't very good, but we still had guys like Willie Mack and
okay, old head.
Yeah, Uncle Rico entered the chat.
We got an old head.
No,
Devin.
But
today's player, they don't get the old head.
But it's not about that. But if you don't have a player that has been there before and understand what success tastes like, and I remember in Carolina, they asked me and Ricky Prohl to speak because we had been there. And I don't think this team, after losing Devin,
did they regret asking you to speak?
They don't have, and I don't know how you feel, but I feel like they just don't have them veterans that know what success tastes like.
Yeah, man, and I think there is something to that. I think when you talk about leadership, I think everybody always thinks about like the person that stands in front, the person that gives the speeches, the person that tells guys what to do. But the biggest thing about leadership is like guys being able to look and see leadership. Like I always tell people, Brady wasn't super vocal. He wasn't talking every single day to the whole team. You know, he gave he would talk to the guys right before we would go out on the field, the last kind of 10, 15 seconds before we went to take the field and run out of the locker room. But other than that, like that just wasn't him. Like, yes, he spoke in different times when he felt need to, but like his leadership was guys watched him. And I think that's the thing that everybody forgets. Like I always talk to my wife about that. Like we could tell the kids whatever we want. They see what we do and that's what they do. And I think this team, when I say like doesn't have that, like, hey, we're going to all be in this together. They don't have the people to watch and say like, all right, this person knows I'm just going to do. No, and it's not like from a selfish standpoint of like, hey, I just don't buy in. It's just a thought of like, hey, like they're kind of doing it this way. We should probably be doing it this way. And then you put all that together, it's just kind of dysfunctional. So, again, I think having veteran leadership would help this team a little bit. It might, instead of having 2 wins, have 4 wins. But I think overall, like, we can't overlook the team we watched last year get to 8 wins, had a weaker strength of schedule, played a lot of backup quarterbacks at different times of the season. So I think a little bit of, like, why is this so bad compared to last year? There were some differences in the season. Like, we knew coming in this season, this strength of schedule was really hard, and it's kind of played out to how we thought compared to last year, playing the Indy, like playing Sam Ellinger in Indianapolis, like playing different guys, playing Zach Wilson twice. And I think Zach Wilson's even a better player this year than he was last year. So I think some of those things had to do with it. We played Arizona, Kyler Murray gets hurt the second play of the game. So some of those wins even last year, I think, looked better than what it really was.
Did you see this coming in any way that led to your decision to retire, that this was going to be a tough season for the Patriots?
I think I definitely thought it was going to be a tough season. I think overall, I just didn't think there would be enough. You know, like last week we talked about, is this team going to be a contender next year? No. Like coming off last year, I think we would be a contender in 2023. No. But like in my overall decision, I would say no, because I was kind of done no matter what. Like I don't think I could have easily said, you know what, I don't want to play in New England, but I could go play elsewhere and, you know, maybe have a chance to win the Super Bowl. But I think overall for me, I was at the stage where football was done. But I think when you play a season, like you've been on Super Bowl teams, you know, like, all right, this team is close. Like I played on teams where we didn't go to the Super Bowl, or we might have lost. But I'm like, man, next year we're still going to have a chance. And I think this team's just a few years away from having a chance to get back into being contenders. So, yeah, I didn't think, like, this team would be – I didn't think they would be 2-7 right now. But I think overall, like, I was going to be 36 this year. I was like, man, if I'm not playing for a Super Bowl, like, what's the point of putting my body through more pain? So I think they'll just have some ways to go. But I think they have the leadership under Bill to still get that done in the future.
You're like that dude in the meme who's walking away and the house is exploding behind him.
The action hero. Usually that guy saves the day, though.
I know.
All right. Before you go, 2 things from me. One is Bill Belichick, the head coach of this football team next season.
It's too hard to say. I think yes, but I think overall, to say yes or no right now, and they still have, you know, the rest of the season to play, I think that's hard to just definitely say he's definitely going to be the coach when, like, all we do every day is read all of these rumors and reports that continue to come out week by week. So who knows? But I do think if he decides to still coach, he still can coach a team and be coaching a winning football team.
All right, and then Sunday, who do you like Sunday in Frankfurt, Germany?
I like the Patriots.
Okay, all right.
This is their stretch. Like, yeah, they fell short against Washington. They need this win against Indy because, like, we still got to play the Jets again. Whatever they'll be when they play them, whatever Buffalo will even be when they play them. So, you know, they'll have a chance to possibly ruin some seasons. You know, I think at some point it's going to kind of turn into that, like, hey, who do we play? Can we ruin their season and try to make them, you know, not be exactly where they want to be? But I think this stretch, you know, you got the Colts, then you got the Giants next week. You try to, you know, make matters worse for the Chargers. And I think, you know, overall, though, they can get a big win against the Steelers, who are a winning football team, but overall aren't, like, they haven't played great. I think they can possibly finish the season stronger than, you know, how we feel right now watching them.
All right, Devin McCourty, we will talk to you again next week. Thanks for taking the time.
Have a good one.
All right.